Hello my fellow discerning sleuths, and welcome today to a very special episode of Video Game Detective. One in which there will be no suspects, no evidence, only an investigation. Recently I came across a rather fascinating thread of tweets by the user MultiGravBreak in which the author ponders whether or not a real-life human could beat Super Mario 64. If we replaced the cartoonish superhuman Mario with you, a regular, normal human being who had none of his abilities or game mechanics and physics applied as they did in the real world, how far could you get? Could you collect enough stars to battle and defeat Bowser at the end of the game? Today, I wish to conduct a similar thought experiment for Mario 64's rival N64 classic, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. And why, you may ask? Well, I don't know if you pay much attention to this series, but I'm kind of on a roll lately. Following my success in divulging the details of Donkey Kong Jr.'s disappearance, I feel it's time to take a well-earned break and find this to be a suitably fun and novel little undertaking. If you, as an entirely average, ordinary person, were placed in the little brown boots of Link in The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, how far could you get? Let's dive into the details with a lot of science, a bit of spatial reasoning, and even a dose of psychology, and answer the question at hand. Could an ordinary human save Hyrule? As ever, I am Detective Investigator Lyle Fudj, also known as the Video Game Detective. And before we start, let's lay out some ground rules. As an average human, you stand at a height of 1.6.5 meters, weigh about 140 pounds, and will have an IQ of approximately 100. These attributes will be scaled down relatively when you're a child, and you will be affected by time travel the same way Link is, able to recall memories of past experiences and relationships, and otherwise surprisingly untraumatized by the process. You have no major ailments or physical disabilities, but are hardly a pro athlete either. You will be able to consult Navi as frequently as you like, though you should be careful not to put a strain on your relationship lest she decides she no longer wants to be helpful to you. As far as bodily functions are concerned, that's your business. Link may not need to eat or relieve himself, but you do. Thankfully, there's lots of nice quiet spots in the woods for the latter, and for the former, hardly anyone's ever watching Lon Lon Ranch, so you can go chug it up over there. It's a KFC and milkshake diet for you, baby. God, I wish that were me. You will enter into the world of Hyrule with whatever clothes you pick for your journey, but can pack a few extras if you want. You will not start with Link's default outfit, but will be able to wear whatever he can wear throughout the game. Yes, the Kokiri will judge you for your super dry jackets and Ugg boots, but they'll be forced to accept you as the chosen one regardless once they see Navi. Your inventory takes the form of a bottomless, relatively weightless backpack that returns to you automatically if ever destroyed, for the sake of not letting this video get completely pedantic. Finally, speedrun strats will not work for you in real life. Rules are not suggestions here, they are walls. You're gonna have to gather the Triforce and save the princess like your forefathers did. And with all that housekeeping out of the way, let's finally begin the investigation. Pretty auspicious start here. Everything up to the Great Deku Tree is perfectly feasible. If you don't turn into a total deer in the headlights at the sight of an oncoming boulder, then you really have nothing to fear here and you get yourself nice and armed, relatively problem-free. Deku Barbers might leave a graze if they hit you, but they are only plant life at the end of the day, and us real human beings have been killing them for years. Once you've reconciled the fact that you're now inside the giant talking tree who you just had an actual conversation with, it's time to get on with the game's first dungeon. Which, yet again, it's going to start pretty well. Some strenuous climbing and potential bouts of arachnophobia aside, nothing here is particularly exerting yet, especially considering that you can take things at your own pace. Shortly after getting the slingshot, however, we come to our first major hurdle. Yeah, it's the giant web. As the average child at this point in your adventure, you will stand at approximately 5 foot, give or take, and weigh about 90 pounds. I estimate this drop to the giant spider web to be about 15 times your height. So let's say you're falling about 75 feet before you hit the web. Now, it's not really this fall we're worried about, as it will be broken by a soft substance. It's what comes after. You fall a slightly shorter distance, but still not one to be scoffed at all. I'm going to estimate this to be about 50 feet, though thankfully your velocity has been somewhat reset beset by the spiderweb. Safeopedia indicates that generally any fall from 30 feet or more is fatal. However, not only are you having your descent slowed somewhat by the web, but crucially, you're also falling into a body of water, albeit a shallow one. Link always lands in the deepest part of the water and thus just barely avoids his feet or legs making contact with the ground. You are not Link. And you're also not Tom Daly. There is a good chance that you are afraid of heights, and so there's a good chance that you fuck this up tremendously. Maybe you panic and flail about during the second fall, landing on the part where the ground is raised, charitably breaking your feet and legs on impact. Maybe you hesitate on the first descent, and instead of jumping, you hang off the ledge and slowly, sadly flop down. Not falling with enough force to break the web, you instead bounce off and splat on the nearest wall like a fly on a windscreen. In my eyes, the most likely outcome is that you do survive this fall, but not without a lot of hesitation and a couple of pretty gnarly injuries. At the very least, you have landed in what is effectively a nice big bath, even if it may debatably be tree piss. So rest off those bruises and let's hop back to it. There's no enemies pestering you down here, just a couple monstrously giant spiders, so relax. Once you're back on the saddle, the rest of the Deku Tree really isn't that bad. It's just a few basic enemy encounters and some pretty simple environmental puzzle. Oh god, you have to do it again. But the water is much deeper this time, so actually you're fine. Shortly after getting one over on these Deku scrubs and maybe trying to finagle some medicinal weed for your bruises out of them, it's time to move on to your first boss, who, terrifying as they might be, is actually perfectly doable. Link might refuse to get truly barbaric, but I think you could one-cycle this if you just jam the sword right in her eye at your first opportunity. And one face full of spider blood or maybe a few well-placed slung shots later, you did it! You now have the Kokiri Emerald. You've killed your first boss and cleared your first dungeon. Nice! Only 8 left to go. I'm going to choose to believe that the heart container at the end of the dungeon is you being healed of all the various injuries you accrued throughout, otherwise you will be dead by the time you get to Hyrule Castle Town. On that note, it's time to get to Hyrule Castle Town. Tree dies, nothing new. You've broken the heart of someone very dear to you, nothing new. Let's get the fuck out of here. Hope your cardio is up to snuff, because now we're finally out in Hyrule Field. If you make a straight beeline for any one location, you should make it there just fine. If you choose to explore whatsoever, they'll have to contend with the endless undead legion of the night. Thankfully, they go down in like 1 or 2 hits and are pretty easy to evade, but this is some serious psychic damage you're likely taken. An important lesson has been learned. Have a little look around Hyrule Castle Town if you feel like it, maybe mingle with some of the regulars to try and evoke some feeling of normalcy and sanity again, and now it's time for some good old breaking and entering. You'll meet Malon, who works at Lon Lon Ranch and suspects her father has fallen asleep on the job again. If you're on your way to the castle, she asks you to wake him up should you bump into him and gives you an egg. Link may need a live chicken to wake a man up, but you certainly don't. Keep this egg for rations and scream bloody murder into this man's ear. He'll wake up and be off with no complications, and you can finally clear a path into the Hyrule Castle courtyard. Worth noting that the staff of the nearby ranch appears to consist of a man with narcolepsy and a literal child. We'll keep this information in mind. Thank God the Hyrule Castle guards have very strict movement and behavioural patterns that they follow unflinchingly to a T day in, day out with no changes whatsoever, or else you, a human being with basic pattern recognition and functioning brain cells, might have trouble getting past them. Finally, you meet Zelda, and yes, for all intents and purposes, have an opportunity to confront and maybe even kill Ganondorf right there and then. However, 1, you are still a child and I don't like your chances, and 2, this would likely require you to break a window, which could put you in very bad standing with Zelda and compromise the rest of your journey. I don't care how hard you can throw a brick. Royal influence is some shit. Instead, listen to her ramble on about the G-Force or whatever, learn how to play Despacito and let's bounce. Now, that Lon Lon Ranch, huh? Yeah, this place is probably pretty much going to be your home base throughout the rest of your adventure. It's very easy to mooch off this place, all things considered. You've got all the food and shelter you could ask for as long as you're sneaky enough about it. Next up, we're on Death Mountain Trail with no problem. And even now, your only problem is that you're scaling a mountain with rolling rocks and hostile monsters. For obvious reasons, you should use some of the no doubt numerous rupees you have lying around to get the Hylian shield at Hyrule Castle Town. This hike is pretty taxing, but it's nowhere near as dangerous as some of the climbs we're going to be doing later. With a bit of stamina, you'll be fine. And then, you're in Goron City. Cut a rug with Darunia, and then you're inside Dodongo's cavern. And this is where things get properly dangerous. for the first time. We're going to go ahead and quickly make another rule that you can't die to any ambient heat from lava that doesn't hurt Link, yet again for the sake of not letting this get completely pedantic. BMOS are going to be a constant problem if you don't get used to handling bombs, which is dangerous in and of itself. If you don't want to end up looking like Crash Bandicoot post flamethrower, you'll need to pick your spots when throwing bombs at these guys. Take this dungeon slowly and take them out one by one with the bomb flowers before you even think about trying to traverse it. Take cover behind walls or rocks or anything you can. By virtue of requiring bombs to progress, this dungeon is kinda putting you in constant danger. You're gonna have to get real comfortable with throwing something that could kill you if you wait too long, and doing that whilst likely incredibly sweaty from this dungeon's ambient heat. My suggestion? Bring lots of milk. It always helps calm me down. Even the little baby Dodongos explode when you kill them. I would honestly suggest just running away from these guys and finding higher ground since they can't go up at all. As a result of all the constant explosions going off in this place, you're going to need to be covering your ears a lot, lest you lose your hearing forever. There are 3 specific moments in this dungeon that are more dangerous than anything else though. The first are these 2 fights with the Lizalfos above the lava. You absolutely cannot afford to be pushed off your little foothold here. There's no 2 ways about it. This is where you have to become good at sword fighting. Not only that, but you'll have to pursue them around the room and actively leap over the lava eventually. Slip and you're dead. Deader than Reagan. Deader than Snapchat. If our average human just so happens to have been an ex-Total Wipeout contestant, maybe we're in luck. Then there's this room with a literal moving saw blade patrolling the floor, and where you have to progress by timing a bomb throw perfectly so that it explodes in midair. If you weren't already sweating from the lava, this'll do it for you, which will make your hands slippery, which will make you more likely to drop the bomb and get yourself killed. If you can clear this room, you might just save the princess yet. This dungeon is a death trap, plain and simple. You've got the fully grown Dodongos who can torch you at a moment's notice. You've got these statue enemies who swing at you relentlessly and then explode shortly after. And then there's approximately a 20-foot drop into the boss room that will break whatever bone you land on. My only suggestion is that you throw something down first, like your extra clothes or your bottomless bag to land on, and try and soften the landing. We're really trying hard not to outright break anything here, because you're going to need your legs for running in this fight and you're going to need your arms for bomb throwing. Maybe you can get away with landing on your side and only breaking one arm at worst? I don't know, but King Dodongo does give you a very big and quite elongated opening for throwing a bomb, so I don't think it's going to require that much force. The frustrating thing is that were all your faculties intact, this boss would be perfectly beatable. It's really just a cardio check, or if you're feeling really daring, you could just stand right near the edge of the lava and be out of his way entirely. But all your faculties will not be in check. You'll be exhausted from the heat, fatigued due to constant fighting and exertion, and your hearing will surely have taken some hit thanks to all the constant explosions. I would estimate that this is where approximately 80% of people's runs would end, whether they were burned alive, blown up, or quickscoped by a BMOS. For the incredibly resourceful, incredibly physically and mentally resilient, and perhaps incredibly lucky few who survive though, claim that heart container, let's clear up those burns, get that ringing out of your ears, and let's blow this joint. Not literally though. That would be very counterproductive. The remaining 20% or so will have the joy of seeing the light of day yet again, and being re-injured by Darunia almost instantly, who declares you his sworn brother, or sister, or non-binary sibling. They may be rock people, but they're still not so dumb they can't acknowledge gender as a spectrum. And with all that, you did it. You got the Goron Ruby. It wasn't worth it. Time to sneak back in for a long rest at Lon Lon Ranch, I think. Take some time to recuperate, mentally prepare for what's next, and think about all those other average people we lost in Dodongo's Cavern. If I survived, maybe I'm not so average after all, you think to yourself. But you are. You are a statistic. You might still die because you accidentally kicked a chicken. I have some good news. The stretch of gameplay coming up next, whilst not a total walk in the park, is nowhere near as bad as what you just went through. Your next destination is Zora's River. Stock up on some magic beans from this weird guy because you've never heard a cautionary tale in your life, and let's head for that waterfall. Now, it's important to make a distinction here. While I joked about chickens just a moment ago, cuckoos are not chickens. They are referred to as cuckoos and thus must be treated as their own creature, separate from an ordinary chicken. Physics, as we've said, will not necessarily carry over from the game into real life, so if these were chickens, we'd have no reason to believe that they'd be capable of carrying your body weight any reasonable distance whatsoever. However, as they are cuckoos, we will go with the game logic. Just wanted to get that in there. These jumps across the river wouldn't be particularly problematic without them anyway, I don't think. I'm sure you could figure out a way across. Bust out Despacito at the waterfall and we're in Zora's domain. Considering everything you've been through so far, it might be an idea to just frolic and take it all in for a bit. The Zoras are pretty chill, and sure, a guy's daughter's missing, but this is almost definitely the best wash you're going to get for a long time. Hang out for a bit. Do the diving minigame, I don't know. Eventually, you're going to need to scoop up a fish in a bottle, which will definitely be a pain in the ass. Then, you've got a moderately lengthy dive for a message in a bottle. At least there's no enemies around. Give this message to the king, spend 20 minutes watching him take the piss out of you sliding along in his chair whilst you spiral and question every life decision you've ever made, and then give the fish to the big boy and you're inside Jabu Jabu's belly, which would definitely not be this well lit. You'd surely need to bust some torches out in here. In preparation for this video, I asked my friend, who is good at science, if I was swallowed by a giant fish and had to walk around in its stomach acid, how fast would I become a skeleton? Their response was that probably no one has ever walked around in a big room with stomach acid before, and that you'd probably get burns with prolonged exposure, but it's the fumes that'd be more likely to kill you. Basically, this dungeon is also a huge pain in the ass, and you're going to need to plug your nose and hold your breath in some of the rooms and convince Ruto to carry the torch. And if she doesn't want to cooperate, well, you're gonna have to get a bit violent. Sorry, there's no two ways about it. She's gonna have to pull her weight. You're trying to save the world here. If she insists on making you pick up and throw her, maybe you accidentally concuss her on a wall or something to make a point. She can come peacefully, she can rack up a huge hospital bill. More than anything, this dungeon will require a lot of precaution and demand you go slowly. However, it's not quite as death-defying as the previous one. Most of the enemies here can be killed from range and have pretty predictable, slow-moving attacks, and there are a couple of pretty nasty falls, but nothing is guaranteed to break a bone as the drop into King Dodongo's boss room. Odds are, by the end of this dungeon, you've got some serious acid burns, maybe you've even lost some skin, you've been shocked a few times, and you probably want every monarchy ever to be abolished. The thing about acids and fumes is that they're generally a slow killer, and you've got a heart container to collect before you become completely radioactive. Getting that heart container and dealing with Baronade, however, is a bit of a problem. Any zap from this thing, especially considering your burns, could be fatal, and it moves pretty fast, and let's be real, no one really knows how to use a fucking boomerang. Doing it on small fry enemies was one thing, but this? Yeah, you're going to be running over and picking it up again in the midst of all this chaos a lot. Might honestly be easier to just try severing these tendrils with a slingshot, or knocking the jellyfish off him with your sword, but even then, I don't love your chances. Between this boss fight specifically and not being careful enough around acids and fumes, I'm going to say that we lose another 10% of our average people here. Only 10% left. A tragic and senseless loss of life. On the bright side, you got the Zora Sapphire, and now you're going to marry into royalty. Sweet. I mean, she's a fish, but maids and shit. This guy's your dad now. You'll get over it. Now it's finally time to put the drip on display, bust out the bangers, and, I don't know, age up 7 years? Yeah, I'm hoping you don't grow too much, otherwise clothes are going to be a problem. I mean, your hands are apparently too big to use a slingshot now, so... And an important reminder that milk in your inventory is also aged 7 years. I'd drink it now before it goes out of date. This strangely gorgeous man gives you a nudge towards the Forest Temple, and by extension, Kakariko Village, and you're off. Not before another 10 points of trauma damage are caused by having to pass through Ohio on your way out though. Now you're going to have to race a ghost through a tomb for a hookshot. Yeah, video game logic. And whilst he is throwing literal fire at you and doesn't seem to be aware that he genuinely risks killing you, the camera won't be pulled in this far in real life, and you surely move with more agility and better turning than a literal video game character, so just play it safe and you should be fine. If you die here, it's kind of embarrassing. Once you're out, you find yourself in this building in Kakariko of all places. Some neckbeard's mad about some kid who played an ocarina 7 years ago or something. I don't know. Call him off with some rain and let's split. At this point, you might also bump into Talon, who's apparently been fired from Lon Lon Ranch in the time that's passed. Scream into his ear again so he tells you about Ingo and how he's taken the ranch over. This is concerning news. Maybe your days of break-in steak burgers are done. Make your way there. Malon's still there, and though she is older, she doesn't immediately recognize you as the kid from 7 years prior, much less finger you as the prowling chupacabra who stalked their lands and feasted on their livestock in the night all that time ago. Even better news, this arsehole Ingo just stays in the exact same place all day, every day. We're back in business, baby. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Before you leave, might as well show this guy up in a couple races and then steal his horse on your way out. Okay, that's actually easier said than done. We probably lose another 2% of you to horse riding incidents here. More of you likely spend literal hours, maybe even days trying to beat this man who is, for all intents and purposes, much more experienced than you. Still, though, you've literally jumped from heights of over 50 feet. You'll get there eventually. Finally, we're back out on the open road. Wind in your hair, 7-year-old milk in your belly. You're feeling good again, ready to take on the world, even though a vast majority of your peers have died horrifically. Kokiri Forest has seen better days. Convince this Rice Krispies elf to let you pass and enter the Sacred Forest Meadow. With the maze-like structure and big beefy enemies, this place would be really dangerous. Thankfully, you're incredibly smart and know to hookshot up to the scarecrow above and basically skip the whole thing. This new world of darkness is nothing. Oh, he looks pretty big, doesn't he? Yeah, I think we lose at least a couple more people to this guy. Now our numbers are really dwindling. Keep zigzagging and never move in a straight line for too long and just slash away at his ankles like a cat when it thinks your foot's a toy. Thank God this guy never elects to change strategy once we get up close. That gorgeous man is back and he gives us his Spotify playlist. Cool. And with this sick new track in tow, we can finally make our way into the Forest Temple, which is where our run ends, if you're not good at using Deku Nuts. I've only learned how broken Deku Nuts are from watching Zelda's playthrough of Ocarina of Time 3D, a playthrough from which the vast majority of this video's footage is taken. These Wolfos right at the start are a huge problem. They are literally wolves who can stand up and block. You ever seen The Grey featuring Liam Neeson? If those wolves could stand up and block, that movie would have been 10 minutes long. Your literal only chance against these things is to throw a Deku Nut as soon as they spawn and then slash the ever-loving tar out of them, but there's a good chance this doesn't go your way. It's very unlikely that you've gotten the Bigoron sword like Zelda has here, because trying to get the Bigoron sword will almost undoubtedly wipe the rest of us average people out. Getting the Bigoron sword requires us to go to the very top of Death Mountain, where there are rolling boulders and literal falling meteors. And forget getting the Bigoron sword, just think about trying to wield it. Look at that thing. And busted as Deku Nuts may be, there's no guarantee you don't forget to look away when you throw one and stun yourself, or mess it up in some other way. Maybe you run out of them against the wolves, who I'd like to remind you can run on their hind legs and block, and have none left for the mini-boss fight with 2 Stalfos, who have swords and shields and can also block, and are basically a harder version of the Lizalfos fight from Dodongo's Cavern. Okay, you might be saying to yourself, surely I can stock up on Deku Nuts between the fights with the Wolfos and Stalfos, and yeah, sure you can, but that's still no guarantee. These guys are competent sword fighters who outnumber you and they can't be one-shot by anything. Few enemy encounters have even come close to demanding the straight-up action hero-like combat skills that these do. Now that you're an adult, enemies are ramping up big time, and I'm gonna be real, I see literal wolves who can stand up and block, and I go, nah bro, I fold. It's time to get real, viewers. We've been very optimistic up until now with the fall into King Dodongo's boss room and the fumes in Jabu Jabu's belly, and maybe we could have continued to be optimistic here because the Forest Temple outside of these combat encounters is pretty doable. But there's no way any average person is surviving the lava and the falls and the acid and then also surviving a fight with 2 wolves and then a pair of armed sentient skeletons with fighting skills surely more refined than your own. Maybe at an absolutely cosmic stretch, 1% of you is still alive after this. So the question becomes, could someone in this 1% put together the dream run? No, because the Fire Temple is next, and have you seen this shit? I mean, forget everything else in this dungeon, look at the boss. No! It's over! That's literally a dragon! For fun, I'll tell you that no, you couldn't beat the Water Temple either. The average person is not the miraculous love child of Sherlock Holmes and a Navy SEAL. Good luck figuring this shit out in first person. You thought having to go into a menu to remove your boots was bad? Wait until you've got to do it manually, underwater. How long can you breathe underwater? I have perforated eardrums. I can get ear infections from a shower. Fuck this. And then the Shadow Temple and the Spirit Temple and... no. It's over. Could an ordinary human save Hyrule? No, of course they couldn't. This should have been obvious from the start. Case closed. 50k subscribers on the Hard Drive YouTube channel by the end of the year, and I'll tell you all the ways you wouldn't survive Skyward Sword or some other piece of shit. The tale of the tape is simple. Everything becomes significantly worse once you become an adult, and then you die shortly after. Real life logic certainly does carry over. And the worst part is, Mario clears this shit so easy. If we replace you with Mario, bro, it's just another Tuesday. He takes no damage from this fall. He can stop any fall damage by just kicking in the air. He uses the lava to gain height. God, people are so lame. I wish I was Mario. Hello everyone, hope you enjoyed the video, or if you like Skyward Sword, I hope you didn't. True Fudj fans may notice that the best tweets on all their timelines have mysteriously and suddenly disappeared without a trace. This is because shortly after saying that I could beat up a bunch of young British conservatives, which I could, and suggesting that I was going to kill and eat the flesh of a viral TikTok landlord who was complaining about working with tenants, which I would, I woke up to find that my account, Nocturnal Fudj, had been permanently suspended, and none of my countless and very reasonable appeals have worked yet. Yes, another victim claimed by the woke mob. In the meantime, you can follow me here at Fudj Ain't Sleepy for more updates on upcoming hard drive videos and more hilarious and totally contextually justified threats of violence against landlords. And please do, because I am a slave to the system, and the numbers set off the tiny little dopamine receptors in my head. Also, remember to consider leaving a like or comment on this video and subscribing to the Hard Drive Mag YouTube channel if you like what we do, or else it might just be your flesh I devour next. Subscribe.